just walk you guys through your first essay assignment. And this is required viewing because I want to make sure you have all of the context, all of the suggestions that you need to complete this very short first essay. So in this very short unit, you've had a couple of different views of what this early American identity kind of looks like as it's developing. I say quote unquote American because obviously this was not America yet. But what I want you to do is think about how we contextualize the experiences of those settlers through these letters and through this texts as we start looking at how that national identity is created. So, what I want you to do is choose one of the works and authors read in this unit. So, it has to be a work read from this unit. You're analyzing that piece of literature. So you are analyzing that, or you're creating analysis around that work from that author. If you would like, you can choose more than one work, say, for example, two poems from Anne Bradstreet. However, this paper is very short, so I would suggest sticking with one. But think about the context around that work politically, culturally, biographically, and think about how it's relaying or portraying certain political, social, economic, or philosophical ideas of this time period. So, what I want you to do essentially is do what I do in the lectures. You're analyzing a piece of literature for larger meaning. You're looking at what about those works conveys certain ideas that were important to this time period, whether that was politically or socially or otherwise. Um, so think in terms of why it matters that we read, say, a Columbus letter or read a De Vaca letter or read a Bradstreet poem. Why does that matter? A few things to consider. How does the author and the work influence or impact those changes happening at this time period? So, Columbus obviously was highly influential in his voyages and how he secured funding and how he spoke to the monarchy who was funding his adventures. So why is that important that he is influencing these views of America, of the native people in a certain manner or light as he's writing back to the monarchy? The same thing with Cabeza de Vaca. Why is it important that we see that De Vaca speaks of the native people a certain way, that he speaks of even the Christian group that comes to enslave them a certain way? With Bradstreet, why is it important that we see this view of everyday domestic life for these early religious settlers, especially as a female, especially given the intimate views that were given of her relationship with her husband, her fears of death, her feelings about her children, that kind of thing. So, how does the work fit or not fit with this quote unquote new American identity? How do they help shape those new ideals? So, think about how highly influential someone like Columbus is as he's writing back to the European monarchy about what the native people are like and why that influences certain belief systems. Same thing with De Vaca. Um, how does the author approach the subject matter? Or how do they achieve a particular social or political goal or message? So, again, with Columbus, you have highly politically motivated messaging and syntax in his letters. Cabeza de Vaca does the same thing in a different way. And with Anne Bradstreet, you get a very, like I said, a very intimate, private view of what was something that was not discussed in broad social circles. Um, so you want to think about having a clear thesis in your essay. So you should have an argument that you're making about the texts. So, for example, if I was going to do Columbus, I might say Columbus's syntax and repeated use of the word I, along with the imagery of the land and the negative, I don't know, the negative descriptions or imagery associated with the native people helped establish a political motivation for power the the European colonies over this new land or over native people, something like that. That would be a thesis that makes a clear argument and has main ideas associated with it. And then you expand on those main ideas, say a main idea per paragraph, with good evidence from the text. If you want to use outside sources, you're more than welcome to. You do not have to in this essay, but you are welcome to use a couple of credible sources if you like. Think about things that have like .edu or biography.com or pbs.com or something like that. Avoid things like 123 Help Me and GradeSaver and Wikipedia. But what you're going to do is pull in quotes either from those sources and or from the text. More importantly, it's actually much more important that you do pull in quotes from the text as evidence to back up your claims. So if I make the argument that Anne Bradstreet is a seminal author because she's the first female transatlantic author, and her poem X gives us an intimate view of a romantic relationship between two partners at a time when it was highly frowned upon to discuss those things in a religious society. I'm gonna pull out quotes from the poem that show her talking about her love for her husband or that relationship as evidence to support my claim that she does that. So again, use specific quotes. Quotes are always much stronger forms of evidence than paraphrasing, and expand on that in each main idea with good in-depth analysis. And then of course you'll close everything out with a conclusion where you simply restate your thesis and your main ideas in new words. So you'll say something like, ultimately, Bradstreet's positionality as the first female transatlantic author was highly influential on subsequent female authors who followed. Her intimate portrait of American life for a religious female was, greatly, transformative because it had, certain imagery, certain symbolism, whatever it might be. So your essay needs to be 1.5 to 2 pages in length. You can always write more, you just can't write less. So you can go over 2 pages, just please don't do less than 1.5. If you do less than that, you will have points taken off. It's due by Sunday, October 30th at 11:59 p.m. Make sure you meet that page length. Mla formatting is required and everything's checked for plagiarism. So MLA means in the top left corner, you have a header that has your name, the instructor's name, the date, and the course and section number. Page numbers on the top right, a title. Everything is 1-inch margins all around. It's double spaced, Times New Roman, Cambria, Calibri, or Arial font. And then if you use any sources, including the text that you're analyzing, you're going to want to include a works cited or bibliography page. You're going to be assessed on making sure you have close analysis of the work and its major concepts, as well as secondarily looking at the author's identity or the historical context. So what I don't want you to do is let this be a history essay or a biography essay. Don't tell me Columbus's biography. Don't tell me Bradstreet's biography. Don't tell me the history of the early conquerors. Tell me you're analyzing a piece of literature, most importantly. So your focus should be on analyzing that piece of literature. Look again at what I do in the lectures. Look at how I'm breaking down certain sentences, looking at imagery, metaphors, symbolism, whatever it might be. That's most important. Secondarily, you can look at things like historical context or biographical context. Again, pull from the primary source, and if you choose any secondary sources, you can use those as well. Lots of good quotes, lots of good evidence to support your claims. Again, you don't need to use research sources unless I tell you. Proper page length, MLA formatting, citations. That means you cite any quotes that you have or any paraphrases. You cite them in text with parenthetical citation, and then you include them on the bibliography. And then again, make sure you have a fully developed essay structure, including a good intro, clear main ideas, and a conclusion, and careful, clear organization of all ideas. Okay, so I've given you guys a couple of ways of thinking about this, so you guys can think about a lot of different literary elements within these texts. I want you to think about 1 or 2 or 3 main ones. Try to keep your argument narrow and focused and concrete. So don't try to talk about, say, all of this. That would be entirely too much for a page and a half. But you can think about things like characterization. Think about archetypes or protagonists and antagonists, secondary or major, flat, dynamic, round. Even in, say, for example, a letter like Columbus's letter or Devaka, there are clear protagonists and antagonists. There is development. Think about literary devices like similes, metaphors, personification, irony, etc. Think about the dramatic arc. So think about the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the point of view, the narrator. Is it first? Is it third person? Is it third person omniscient? Think about the conflict. Is it man versus society? Think also about the theme, the symbol, the motif, the style, the imagery. And then last but not least, you can think about the historical context. So that's the biographical context of the author, as well as the historical, ethical, social, moral events that were being discussed or, influenced around the text. So that is pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I leave this broad because I want you guys to choose A, the work that is of most interest to you, and B, what about that work is of most interest to you. Because I want you to really enjoy writing about whatever it is you want to talk about. But let me know if you have any questions, and you're more than welcome to email me if you want any feedback on any ideas that you may have. Thanks.